everybody, and welcome to episode 422 of the Pixels and Ink podcast, the official podcast of CGMagazine, where we take a critical eye to gaming, comics, tech, and media. I am your host today, Chris DeHoog, and I'm joined by our editor in chief, Brendan Fry, and Jordan
Yeah.
Biardi. How's it going, guys?
Hi.
That was like rapid fire
I
introduction.
I
condensed
know.
it.
Very new.
There's only two. There's only two. I condensed it.
I was
Made an
thinking my
executive
surprise.
decision.
I approve.
Everyone's got to stay frosty, you know.
Yeah, that makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I'm with you.
Enthusiasm. Love to see it.
Well, do too.
So our first topic today, we're going to dive right in. So Microsoft continues to have trouble with their acquisition of Activision Blizzard. People were thinking it was kind of
Activision
a
Blizzard
done deal.
King as well.
That is everything under that umbrella, which is quite a broad scope of
Yeah.
things. But yeah, it was looking like a done deal, and then was suddenly blocked in the UK this week. The shock of many
Yeah.
people. So
That does stop it basically until if they appeal it. I was reading a law journal that's from the UK, and apparently only about the 20 to 30% of cases actually can successfully get an appeal, and from there, it's even less chance that it'll actually go in Microsoft's favor because what will probably happen is the appeal will just say, okay, go back to the original tribunal and try to convince them again. And if they don't want to let it through, they're not going to let it through.
yeah, you need to have a pretty strong case to to get through this.
Yeah.
The exact same people, like you really need to come at it with a new angle.
And I don't, as of right now, I don't know what they could do because right now, it isn't even the PlayStation stuff that they were really upset about. It was the cloud services, which
yeah,
right
all
now,
things.
that is a big market and they don't want to just see it basically take over. Like, I don't want to see Microsoft just have a dominant place in the industry with no new startup able to kind of take hold. And right now, with Game Pass, it really does have that big, strong position. And to give it more things to kind of power that up is troubling, at least.
Yeah, I mean, we all know on this podcast that we are not fans of de facto monopolies.
Really? To be fair, the States is also apparently the States is also not a fan of de facto monopolies. So is
I,
Britain. Apparently, sometimes it
I
just gets
didn't
through.
I didn't know that the UK just like had this power to just like stop
Any country
business
does. I
acquisitions.
mean, any country where the company has significant investment.
Mhm.
So if I believe Activision Blizzard have quite a bit of investment in the UK, so it's hard to be like, well, we won't deal with UK then because that's a massive population. Also, a lot of developers are from there and stuff. It would be a big deal to not deal with that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they still have the FTC in the US to deal with, even if they get through the UK one. So it doesn't. There's more and more hurdles in their way, and I don't know how they're going to get over them all.
There's something about a time limit on the whole thing as well, right? Like if I believe if they're not done by a certain point, like they owe, like Microsoft owes basically a penalty to Activision Blizzard for not having it done in time.
I don't know how that works if it's blocked. I don't know if that still takes effect because it's not their fault it didn't go through.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a weird. I mean, we're none of us are lawyers, but
Yeah, I feel we need
so it's
to
kind of a weird area.
we need to consult a lawyer on this one, but I don't actually know what will happen. I know if Microsoft drags its heels and just kind of like makes this acquisition purchase and then kind of stops it along, they definitely have to pay. But this is not their fault. I mean, it's a corporation dealing with a corporation here, so whatever. But I don't think it's their fault. So I don't know if the penalty would kick in, but who knows?
Yeah, because no one can accuse them of not trying to get this thing. Like if anything, they've been a little too aggressive in it. So
Mm. I just don't know what the way forward is for them because they still have a few other regions to get through, and this is just one of them. And there's a few other ones. I think the EU is still dragging its heels. I think. I don't think they've given full approval yet either. And then there's the US. I don't think Canada's given its approval yet either.
Mhm. I mean, it seemed like they were trying at least like to some degree, like they were penning all these deals about like,
Yeah.
no, don't worry, like we're gonna put like Call of Duty on the Switch and like trying to
Yeah.
make it seem like they were gonna
Yeah.
still like allow for multi-platform access while still like owning Activision Blizzard, but
I feel, but I think they weren't doing anything about the cloud stuff. They weren't doing anything mobile stuff.
no.
What they were really focusing on was the Call of Duty angle, which was PlayStation's argument. But PlayStation really doesn't directly argue to the government as such. They might say
Mhm.
we disagree with it, but it's the government will base it on what they think's best for the industry. And if they think this is bad for the industry, PlayStation could say, but it's bad for PlayStation. That isn't necessarily what they're looking at. And it seems with this decision, they were more of looking at the cloud aspect of it and the fact that Microsoft really didn't do anything to kind of argue that, oh, the cloud from all these competitors will just be a save. We'll make sure it's on there. He really wasn't making that argument. It was making the argument, we'll still settle on PlayStation. They weren't saying, we'll make sure um, Call of Duty's on PlayStation Plus and Nintendo's thing and all these other services. So that might have been a miscalculation on Microsoft's part, but I don't have all the documents. I don't know if they might have been making that argument somewhere else, but I don't know.
This whole thing's become so hard to keep track of anymore. Like
It
it seems like
is.
every other week there's some strange appeal and some new obstacle, or it's just it's going on so long.
I I don't know what will happen because even if there's an appeal, even if they try to rush it through, it's going to be months before they even get any headroom or headway on this. I don't see how their timeline they had planned will ever close.
Yeah, definitely not
Within
the original timeline.
they wanted it by the end of this year, and I don't see that happening right now.
Yeah, and it's really starting to look too like it's just like maybe like just not ever going to happen. Like if like people just can't
Yeah.
like and like governing bodies and like actual countries apparently just keep throwing hurdle after hurdle after hurdle
Yeah.
in front of Microsoft on this. Like,
Well, they don't want Microsoft's already one of the biggest companies in the world to give them more stranglehold on the market. A lot of countries are like, hey, that seems like a bad idea. If it was a small company merging with another small company, like that's fine, whatever. But when it's like one of the biggest video game publishers and one of the biggest console makers just being like, you're just going to marry each other and be great, it looks less supportable.
mhm.
It doesn't seem like the little guy. Also, Microsoft's argument of them being the little guy is just trying to make games is laughable when they are literally, I think, the second or third biggest company in the world. So
Yeah.
Love that angle. Yeah, that's a great
with
woe was me
with
approach. Oh, we're
with a
just little
G
Microsoft.
with
Protect us from the big bad Sony.
yeah, when their valuation is almost bigger than most countries, something it doesn't believable.
Yeah.
Won't somebody please think of the Microsoft?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I have nothing against Microsoft. I have a few things against Activision and their work process, but there's a lot of really great people that work those studios. I do have a problem with monopolies and how one company can dominate. I don't want to live in the future of, oh, we're going to buy the Microsoft console and play only the Microsoft games. So all these indie publishers or small titles just fall through the cracks. And I feel that if you have a monopoly situation, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like we see like more and more now too, like with like the more control
Yeah.
that these companies have, like the more that they're kind of like becoming unwilling to provide any real leeway with
Yeah.
with their intellectual properties. I mean, like look what just happened with Nintendo. Like,
I mean, let's be clear here. Nintendo has never given leeway with their intellectual properties. They've always been
no,
litigious.
but like to go as far as they have gone in the story with Gary Bowser and even
Yeah,
just
that
like
one's basically he's
that
going to be living in debt to
yeah
Nintendo for the rest of his life. That is,
for the rest of
they
his
could have
life.
they could have just been like, saying we're good, you're going to jail, you're done. But
Yeah,
they're making sure he pays every penny back.
and not even that. It's
well,
like they specifically like called GameStop to try and get one of their
Yeah.
employees fired for like accidentally leaking the Switch thing, or was it? I don't know if it was accidental, but
I was gonna say,
but
I don't
even
think that was pretty.
but still, I mean, come like deal. We already knew it was coming. Like it's stuff like that too. And then even the way that they've been trying to like copyright strike that other channel that did the Zelda mod. It's like these are petty things that Nintendo as a company could just sort of like let go. And okay, if they want to exert their control over their own intellectual property, like okay, fine. Like, you know, as much as I don't agree with it, like they have the right to kind of like tell, people who are doing fan games or using their IP to kind of like to stop it, right? Cease and desist.
That's normal for most companies.
Sure, and that's what I mean. Like
to the point when they're putting people in jail and try to shut down channels.
Yes,
that's above and beyond. But I understand in the ruthless corporate world, I understand that. But also, Nintendo is since its inception has been ruthless.
Well,
there's also a precedent for them like making a big show of like he's gonna owe us money forever, and then just kind of quietly backing off on it after the fact.
I mean, like
they
that,
did this
that's the thing.
With New Super Mario Brothers when we leaked on the Wii. I think it was like a GameStop employee leaked something, and they made a big show of penalizing him, but then like quietly afterwards, like just kind of let it go and just made it up to him after the fact.
And I could see that being like the case where they say make it a massive show of, hey, look what we're going to do to you, and then just be like, yeah, you've done your time, that's fine, just don't do it again. But they can always they can give him basically just don't worry about paying it type thing, but they can always, if he ever does it again, they're like, you owe us that money.
Didn't they already basically like say though that they're gonna like garnish his wages?
Yes, they did.
As long as
literally as long
live,
as he lives.
like,
yes.
So they say that, but like I said, they might, after the fact, like after it's died down, kind of like be like, no, it's cool, we're fine. Just never mind. Like sometimes they drop these things quietly afterwards.
I mean, a lot of corporations do. There's no real advantage in just getting the few $100s he's going to give you because Nintendo doesn't really care. But it is something to kind of look as a threat to anyone else. Also, if they do let him not pay it, if he ever does anything else, they can be like, oh, you owe us that money now.
Yeah.
So there's reason. I understand. Okay, there's things I understand of why companies do it. I get in theory why Microsoft wants Activision. I also get in theory why Nintendo is so litigious. I don't necessarily fault governments for saying, hey, maybe these giant corporations shouldn't become more giant and become basically little countries or big countries at this point.
Yeah.
Like they should not, like no tech company should be above the law or above like basically destroying any other industry. And I think right now Microsoft's powerful enough and gaming is big enough that it's something that it no longer it's just a kid's thing. When you have multi-billion-dollar corporations that are some of the biggest in the entertainment industry fighting over properties, this is a big budget business. And to think that government should just let the stuff slide through and fanboys will push it through for them is silly. Like Microsoft has been playing into that fanboy mentality quite a bit with this deal and talking about how Sony is so evil, it's trying to stop us making games for everyone. That's not what's happening. I mean, on Sony's part, it was kind of weird too. Like some of their arguments made no sense. Whatever though. They had to play every card they had, but I don't think it was just Sony was being mean to them. I think there's a general governments wanting to make sure what's best for everyone else and industry in itself. They don't want one company, because what if Microsoft decides it only wants to be based in one weird small country that doesn't pay any taxes and all the video game industry jobs just go there? That's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an angle that I hadn't really thought of before, but it really could, have an impact on the economy. Like if Microsoft comes in and takes over the entire tech sector. I mean, they're obviously not going to have any room to grow
no innovation
competitively or have any kind of say in their industry, because now this American company has come in and taken over essentially this whole sector.
Exactly, and I think that's
not how I expected this affair to kind of end, if this is the end of it. But
I feel that Microsoft has more cards to play. But what's it really going to do? be kind of like, okay, we won't deal. This deal's dead, but we're going to be mean to Britain now. That's dumb. Like that would be a stupid move. Like they have to play the long game, and this one deal isn't the end game for Microsoft. It also would be stupid because they have a lot like Rare is based in the UK.
Hmm.
So one of
That's
their
true
biggest
too, yeah.
studios is based in the UK. So they're like, we're just not dealing with the UK anymore. That would be stupid. They only
Everyone
have
come
so
on
many
over.
things they make. So, and there's a lot of rules. Also, there's a lot of rules for closing British studios. So they really just couldn't close it. The UK is weird. Um,
Well, I mean,
but
so far they've only literally come back with threats. Like
yeah,
they said, "Oh, we're disappointed. Like I thought we had a good relationship with, we supply your cybersecurity and stuff like that."
yeah,
That's your angle, okay? That's a bold play.
I don't. Bobby Kotick was basically just like, we'll fight this tooth and nail, blah, blah, blah. But he just wants a giant payout. So
Yeah.
whatever.
He's like, "Please let this go through. Please let me get out of the limelight. I want to get out of here because he
Yeah.
has to stay on if it falls through." So
I mean, he doesn't have to, but his contract basically means that if he just leaves, he leaves behind hundreds of millions of dollars. So that would be
yeah,
dumb.
so he essentially
So
has
he,
to win.
I mean, so he has to stay until it's sold or they push him out. So it really does him well to just kind of be annoying and make sure the deal goes through. Because if it stays and they're like, yeah, you're a good CEO now, that doesn't help anyone. I mean, it doesn't help him. Him being a good CEO would be kind of cool, but that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, why start now?
I mean, it's a little late. A little late. But we'll see. Right now this deal is nebulous at best. It could all go through. It could. Microsoft could come back like, oh, getting rid of all cloud stuff, and it's going to go through. But I don't see it. If that was the
Yeah.
case, they would have just said, okay, we're not going to have. When everything was about Call of Duty, they would have like, we just won't take Call of Duty. We'll take everything else. They didn't even offer that. They didn't even suggest it. In fact, the UK I think suggested, and so did the EU, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that. No.
This is the whole reason
So
we're doing this deal is to get that. So why would we
I actually
back
don't.
out of
I
it?
honestly don't think Call of Duty is as big a deal to this deal as we think. I think it's
Hmm.
mobile, and I think it is uh, the amount of things they can do for the cloud infrastructure. Like
Hmm.
all those titles, back titles and stuff that just will constantly be owned by Microsoft is a giant um, boon for Microsoft's game service. And yes, we think Game Pass is great now because it's like, what is it, $20 a month, and you get massive amounts of titles. But if they own every game, if they own the vast majority of games released every year, and they jack that price up to $60 a month, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's going to be nowhere else to go. Realistically,
Yeah,
it's either
and
like
that's
you
the thing.
have an Xbox or you have a Nintendo.
Yeah, and I think that's the case. And right now, I think the UK just doesn't want that to be the future, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I'd be keen seeing how Xbox is doing things that are going a lot of directions with the industry that I wouldn't want to see it
Yeah.
go. So I'm definitely personally not really keen to see them get this deal through and gain that much more of a stranglehold because I think it's the one thing that's going to keep them afloat. As powerful as Microsoft is, Xbox is trailing in the industry right now. Like,
Yeah, it is. It is. I
there's
think.
nothing exclusive. Game Pass is
I
still
mean,
strong, but PlayStation
Redfall
has
comes out
a
next week, I
counter.
believe.
Yeah, it's the first exclusive since like Infinite, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Forza as well.
Well, and Hi-Fi Rush, but I mean that was kind of a smaller title.
I think that's a really cool title, but yes, it was smaller.
Cool but small, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I mean. Like people were like genuinely surprised when Hi-Fi Rush came out, right? They
Yeah.
were just like, "Oh my god, a really good small title that like didn't have any like hype or bombast behind it."
I think that could have only happened because there was a massive industry veteran behind it. I think we talked when Mikami was leaving Tango, how he is like a rock star in the industry. Him wanting to do that and have that kind of release schedule allowed it to happen. I don't think if it was just a young producer, that game ever would have had that release schedule or release style.
Or made that kind of an impact, yeah.
Exactly. If it was just like a random game, people were like, "That's cool, whatever."
that Jet Set Radio? Damn.
It's just that radio mixed with like Elite Beat agents.
I mean, we are getting Jet Set Radio, if we're being honest. It's called
sure.
Bomb Rush Cyberfunk.
Potato
Yeah.
to potato.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Close
But we
enough.
also,
was
on that
awesome.
note, we should also talk about the fact that just in the general theme of purchases, Sega buying Rovio. Because those are two
Yeah.
names you wouldn't think ever would buy each other or work with each other.
That's such a weird one. I don't even know what to really expect from that merger. Because
It
Rovio
was-
doesn't they don't own Angry Birds anymore, do
Yes, they
they?
do.
Didn't they?
They do. Nope.
I thought they
That's the
sold
only-
it.
I believe they own it.
Okay, no, I for some
I
reason
believe
I
that's the
remember
only IP they really own. I think they have a few smaller games, but that's the big IP.
maybe that was the best decision after they were like, hey, you know that free thing you loved? Yeah, it's gone now.
Isn't Angry Birds still free? Isn't it still free?
No, they announced a little while ago, if you remember, that they were basically discontinuing the free version, the vanilla version of Angry Birds, so that
Check now.
basically and they flat out said because it didn't fit into their financial system or their business model. So basically it was free and you loved it. And we had this other version of Angry Birds that you pay for, and it has microtransactions and bullshit. And we're gonna funnel people towards that. And I think nobody was having it.
Well, I mean, cool.
Yeah,
but
it seems like it's all free games with in-app purchases. So I'm assuming it's
Right.
all all the good stuff's behind the paywall. Like the first taste is free.
Yeah. It's just interesting because I didn't. Rovio is one of those names you really haven't heard of much in recent years.
I was
No,
gonna say, I forgot they existed.
that's it. Like I said, I was well under the impression that I could have swore they sold Angry Birds to King or something.
No,
you'd think
Kings.
so.
No, that would. No, I believe it's still owned by.
Yeah.
Well, now Sega.
Well,
But Sega's an interesting thing because it's been just slowly buying up a lot of studios that you wouldn't think they'd own.
Like Atlas.
Atlas, that's I could see Sega and Atlas together, but they own Relic, they own Creative Assembly, they own the people that do, I believe they own or they work with the people that do the 2 Point Campus games. They have such a weird wealth of things, and a lot of them are PC stuff. You're like, why? Okay.
just because Sega's always gonna be that one weird outlier. It's always kind of
It is so weird right now. They just
doing
they
its
just
own.
released wow, what are they the new war RPG, not RPG, war RTS.
Warhammer.
No, the one World War II. Company of Heroes. They just released that, and that's weird. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
They have a lot of studios under their they own, but you don't think of Sega as that big anymore.
No, not really. I mean, yeah, outside of Sonic.
They are doing all of Atlas. They all those weird Persona games, Shin Megami Tensei games, all that stuff. That's all them.
Yeah, but Sega doesn't really put their name on it, right? When you boot up,
Sega Atlas. It's Sega
yeah,
Atlas.
but I guess what I'm saying is that when you boot up Persona 5, right? You don't see the Sega logo. It's just Atlas that comes up. So that's why it's very easy to forget that they have these things. Whereas you put up a Sonic and the first thing you hear is Sega.
Yeah, I feel they're a little less overt. With
Yeah,
all the things they control. But
maybe the Aliens franchise is the only other thing you really see their name on.
Yeah,
actively.
It's really weird. They own, oh my god, they own a lot. A lot of these I don't really know. I'm looking over these studios, and a lot of them. It's yeah, Playheart. I've never heard of that. Technosoft. They do own 2 Point Studios. Sports Interactive, Renovation Products, Ignited Artists, Megasoft, Hardlight. Like I've heard of like half these things.
They also own RZest, which is responsible for the breakout hits We Play Motion and Balan Wonderworld. So,
Oh, those
Yeah.
things.
Those were really good. Play hard. They did the Fist of the
Yeah.
North Star Legends Revive.
So,
There you
anyways,
go.
Sega's
There you
weird.
go.
they're
But
making moves.
I just
Yeah,
thought,
they're
just because like mergers are all the rage right now, where everyone's buying everyone, it's interesting to see Sega still in the mix somewhere, doing weird things.
just building it back up again after they collapsed 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's-
I mean,
I mean,
it's
say
is
what
it,
you want.
yeah.
They at least they at least they keep it fresh. You know what I mean? They put out
Keep
a
popping fresh.
weird visual novel on April Fools where
Yeah.
Sonic
Yeah.
Was
was
like the Sonic mystery one that everyone says
supposedly
like, legit
dead.
good?
Most people said it was like pretty fun. Like it was pretty like interesting anyway.
For
I
free.
mean, compared
Yeah.
to its peers,
Yeah,
the
and it was
AFC
free.
dating sim,
Yeah.
it's not exactly stiff competition.
Yeah.
Like and and again, like kind of like what we were like talking about earlier, like rather than shutting people down and
Yeah.
putting them into debt for the rest of their lives, when people make Sonic fan games, they say, okay, here, make a game for us. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so weird.
because it
yeah,
wasn't because
like Whitehead
the
and then with Sonic Mania and Sonic Origins.
because I think too that the whole like murder of Sonic the Hedgehog thing like wasn't even like a proper like I could have swore it started as like a fan game and then they kind of like
So you say that's very possible. I would 100% believe that.
I know it says like it says no they did develop it, so there you go. That's what I mean. Like it's the kind of thing that definitely like could have been a fan game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But no, yeah,
So
no, they
I
are
think
listed as developers too.
okay. I think it's neat. I think Sega does some weird things. I just think it's weird about Rovio.
Yeah, no, Sega is definitely weird and oftentimes in the best of ways.
I mean, Konami's also weird. Nintendo's
But
so
Konami's weird in a terrible kind of way.
Yeah,
They're
Sega's
weird
weird
in
in an
a
active way. Konami
Yeah.
is just letting it fester.
I mean, Konami owns a lot of weird like spas and stuff, so they're probably doing fine.
spas, pachinkos,
And insurance companies, I believe.
Yeah, see, that's weird in a terrible businessy way. At least Sega's weird in like a fun way.
It's all Japanese companies are so weirdly diverse. It's just so strange. Like Nintendo owns some hotel. Like every company owns weird things. It's just figuring out
Yeah.
what they own and why they own it.
Diverse business holdings, I guess.
And the Japanese government's investing in metaverse stuff. Like,
I feel that's a bad idea because I think everyone's like, this was a stupid idea. And Jordan's typing.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't have a loud clackety clack keyboard like some people.
Ah, who?
shots fired.
Cool. Okay. Next story, Chris.
Well, speaking of going clackety clack on keyboards, Brendan, you and Dana were in Brazil last week for
Yes,
the Street
we were.
Masters.
Yeah, for the you got it, Intel Extreme Masters. Wow, I stumbled on that sentence so hard. Yeah, it was really neat. Like I've seen some of the Intel showcases before. Like they've done stuff at Fan Expo. They've done like small things like that. But just to see how like big they go out in Brazil, and I'm sure in other places they go to is interesting, especially because, pardon me, how big Counter Strike is there. Like people were like avidly cheering their teams. Like I guess that happens sometimes here, but having a stadium just cheering for one team that didn't even win is kind of neat.
Yeah, no, like it's crazy there. Like my girlfriend's brother was telling me too, like just like how big the esports scene
Yeah.
is there. Like so even like in this on like the streamer side to it, like there's so much desire for like really good esports teams and just like players in general.
It just seemed like there's such of like fanfare for these teams and just how excited people were to play. Like Counter Strike was huge. Seeing all their players, like there was lineups down like um through the entire area just to get like T-shirts and stuff from like one of the teams. So people really care about the sport, and seeing Intel go all out, it put on a really good show. Um, I have no ability to understand how good these players are, though. They are. I'm like watching them play. I'm like, I can do some of that. I can't do any of that. Like you quickly go, nope, nope, no. I have no ability to do any of that. They are better than I ever could conceive of being. And
No
it's
360
really
no scopes in your resume.
nope. Sadly, I am. I mean, I used to play Quake back in the day, but I also used to play the original Counter Strike beta before it even launched. But even then, I'm like, nah, not even going to come close to any of the stuff they do. And just seeing, like, I know technology is super expensive down there, so just seeing how many people are like putting so much into buying these PCs and stuff, it's interesting to say the least. Because I know PC game is not cheap here, but it's more
Yeah.
expensive there.
Yeah, 100%.
So I mean, I liked that. I also like the fact that um, Intel was really showing off Arc a lot, like the new GPUs they kind of released, and just seeing that. Well, they're not quite good enough to play esports. Like the pros like seeing get their games run at like 500 frames a second. So you know something, they aren't doing that yet. But to see Intel push these GPUs that are more affordable, like yeah, most people can't afford $1,000 video card. Even worse when that video card costs $3,000 or whatever it would be because of tariffs and
Mhm.
stuff like that in Brazil. So I'm glad seeing something Intel making something that's like 300. That is far more affordable and far more useful for the average person to jump in on than something that costs as much as a really used car. Jordan, you were down there for a while. What was your take on the esports scene while you were there?
I didn't like because I didn't get like the biggest like chance to watch because like oftentimes I would kind of like go into the living room and my girlfriend's brother would be like actively watching this pretty well known uh um like Call of Duty player and
Okay.
Call of Duty and I think Counter Strike,
Okay.
and it was like constant when the new video was up he was on top of it.
Really?
So you could, oh yeah, you could see like you like even just like on like a very like kind of like a ground level
Mhm.
like how much these people like are followed, right?
Really? Okay.
And then like the one of the because I forget his name now, but it's like his whole like gimmick was that like his like he like colors himself blue because it was like a mistake that he made in one of his videos. So
Okay.
like everyone just like was like making jokes about it. So now like he like all the time now when he's on like on stream he just like puts a blue filter on.
Weird.
But
Okay.
there
Sure.
the and the thing that surprised me to kind of to see too, because we were watching this one streamer
Mhm.
whose name I forget now. He's like the fourth or fifth most popular streamer like in the world, and he is like a
Okay.
Brazilian streamer.
Really?
Um so like we were sort of like watching him because he was working with this like he was like streaming with this other guy who was covering the World Cup at the time, and it was genuinely like really funny. Um, and then yeah, like just like after the fact, I saw like when Twitch put out their list of like the most popular streamers, like he was on it, and I was like, holy shit! Like that's the guy. Like so it was crazy to see. Like like a lot of the like really popular streamers are kind of like are coming out of Brazil.
Well, there you go.
Let me see if I can find his name quickly because I know it's on the list.
Well, we should definitely give him a call out if he's that
We
good.
should have
Should.
we should have lists ready.
I mean, sure. Why not?
So for the Intel Extreme Masters, was it just Counter Strike that you saw there, Brendan? Or
Yeah, that's all.
was
The
other stuff going on
I
as
think
well?
there are Intel Extreme Masters for other games. This was for Counter Strike.
Oh, specifically. Okay.
Yeah, that's what that. So they had 3 days of tournaments with two like rounds for each day with so basically some games were played off site, but for the days that were there, they had like two teams against two teams in the morning, two teams in the afternoon, and then the best of those go to the day after, and then works away from there.
Yeah, like my esports knowledge is pretty much limited to the fact that there are esports outfits in Overwatch, and that's kind of it.
There are esports outfits, and that is a thing.
And one time I went to a esports themed bar for a buddy's bachelor party, and that was it.
Oh, that's fun. I think esports are really exciting. I think it's. Whoa, you're being yelled at.
I am.
Oh, you are now quiet.
That's probably for the best.
He is.
There we go.
Okay. Jordan's doing a thing right
Anyways.
now, so we will just continue on to topic 3, I guess.
Sure.
What up?
You were kind of mid thought there, but
I mean, I just Jordan's gone, so
well, yeah. throw a stick in the works here.
he did, but it's okay.
But yeah, so another topic tonight, just hot off the presses, just before we went live here, or a few hours ago. Vice sadly announced some layoffs in their gaming departments. Basically, the entire gaming.
I believe
of the
all of
operation.
Waypoint is shutting down.
And that's not. Well, it's just the latest in the list of outlets that are.
Yeah, I mean,
consolidating and then shutting down gaming coverage.
There's been a lot of gaming outlets, like the Washington Post had one. I think it was. I forget what the Washington Post one, Leveler. It's like I forget what it was. They shut down earlier this year. You've had Valnet shut down random amounts of things and just kind of lay people off. You've had the gamers that bought all those sites from Enthusiast Gaming and then shut down a lot of people from there. So it's been bloody for outlets. Also, it seems like it's the outlets that do different things that get shut down. It's not the outlets that do just news and like reviews and stuff like that. It's the outlets that try to cover the industry beyond just here's the latest like press release we rewrote, and actually try to talk about like how it's changed their lives or what new the gaming scene has done or what is doing. And that's sad because I like that kind of coverage. I think it is interesting, and I think we try to do that sort of thing. So it's really kind of disheartening to see that's what a lot of these companies are just kind of shuttering.
Yeah, just kind of closing down all the outliers and homogenizing the industry and the
into just like
criticism of the industry.
Yeah, it's very much kind of making anything that is not just straight coverage of games as games just doesn't have a place anymore, and that's really sad to see. And Jordan's face says it all. He is deeply sad. Deeply sad.
So yeah, no. Sorry, I jumped into this conversation halfway in.
We're just sad. We're just generally sad.
Just
Oh,
pouring one
okay,
out
yes.
for the homies. Yeah.
I feel that pain
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
But what are your thoughts, Jordan?
About
Outlets shutting down that do things beyond just.
Oh,
hey, a new game
we're talking about BuzzFeed. They
No,
need to go back to what they
nice,
did
but also-
best and
Also,
make shitty
mean-
top 10 lists about what Friends character you are.
I mean, okay. We were talking about. we were
No,
talking about-
that's a cruel joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they did.
But yeah,
did some
no,
really good news, to be honest.
You know what? Yeah, because they actually did. They broke a lot of really good stuff. And weren't they? If I'm dating myself now, wasn't BuzzFeed kind of on like the cutting floor of like when the whole like
Cutting
Me
edge.
Too like
Cutting edge.
Sorry, of like
Cutting
the
floor
Me
is the
Too
opposite.
movement and like
Yes, they were. They were.
They helped propel that in really
Yep.
big ways.
I think
Um,
BuzzFeed. I think the Washington Post did some really good stuff there.
yeah,
New York Times, New Yorker. A lot of these like high-end papers, and then BuzzFeed. So I think that's really, really good to see. They did some amazing stuff. I think, to be fair, I think Vice did some of that too. Let's be clear here. It's just a lot of these sites are looking at what is the easiest way to make money, and the easiest way to make money is just churn out
hmm
things that interns can write or lowest denominator can write, and just cut the things that cost them money.
oh no,
And
it's 100% true, and like I feel like it's a big part of it too, and I noticed this right away, like when I
Mhm.
kind of got out of school and started getting into journalism because the media like was shifting so much towards
Right.
online journalism
Yeah.
that like nobody really knew how to generate income
Yeah.
from based on the old print model and adapting it to online, and it
Yeah.
feels like not a lot has changed.
I
um
think what it is I think a lot has changed. And I think there is a way to make money online. I think these companies have just gotten incredibly large. So,
well, that too, but like kind of like what you were saying before about like kind of like churning out
yeah.
like just content, like because it's something I noticed like while writing with should I name names?
No, just say we're
It's okay.
writing with other sites.
While writing with another outlet, let's say.
Yeah.
And it really was that thing like where like a trailer for a movie would drop, and they would create like they would like based on like 1 second portions of that trailer
Would
make
make
like
like
10 different articles to write about it. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
it's just like that constant churn of content. Write an entire article based on this one character from that was in the background of this trailer, like or yeah, like complete you
Mhm.
know vapidity. um
Yeah.
but
I
but
mean, to
but
be fair,
that's
that's
how
what a lot of
they make
YouTubers do.
money. Like that's
Yeah.
how you generate income, is it just have
Because
constant streams of content, constant clicks, constant like shares and social media interaction, and these like bigger or these kinds of like media networks can do it that way.
yeah, I
But
think
it's like if you want like real like good journalism, like at the end of the day, honestly, like it's
you need
that
people.
doesn't pay anymore. It's getting a
Yeah.
lot harder to do.
Good
I think
journalism,
what
good
it is,
editorialism too. Like it's not even
yeah.
just the
Yeah,
journalistic side of it. It's
Yeah.
also like, yeah, you're just churning out the content and you're losing all the integrity in the process.
Yeah,
And
like, I
yeah.
100% agree with that.
Not
And
to say
that's
it's
why
going
like
away.
no,
It's
it's
just
just
I
getting
not
think
being
hard.
at the forefront. Yeah.
there's some great reporting still done.
100%.
Uh, but I think what a lot of these sites like Vice, BuzzFeed, etc., they looked to like social media as a way to kind of propel their message forward. And as soon as Facebook started turning off those taps, it really hurts. And I
Yeah.
think BuzzFeed, that was like even in earning calls, they're like, yeah, Facebook is just not driving the traffic anymore, because they put so much behind paywalls, they put so much behind. Oh, you have to put an ad if you want that article to be seen by anyone. You have to market that thing, and that's not really. If you have to pay a few $1,000s for someone to see an article, you're never going to make money back from that article.
No.
No.
And Facebook is, and the amount Facebook, I'm going to say it bluntly, the amount Facebook basically just propels their audience into things they want to see, and makes it so even if they subscribe to like news channels, they will unless you pay to see your audience see anything, you're not going to get anything out of Facebook. They've really, but then
No.
they'll argue the fact that they shouldn't. People aren't on Facebook to look at news and stuff, so they shouldn't need to pay or help any of these outlets out. When like there's laws, that Australian law happened where they were like, yeah, you have to pay publishers for using their stuff to get you audience, and they're like, no, we don't. We're not doing that. So they want to make it seem like they're doing you a favor by having your article upset people in one day.
Yeah,
But they are going to do
there's
nothing to
certain
help you.
there's certain things on Facebook that I would like to see them not push to people, but
Of
that's not the
course.
stuff that's being held back.
No, that is
Yeah.
exactly the thing.
There,
Memes from your weird uncle are being pushed before an article about why the thing he's saying is wrong.
yeah, exactly. Like there's people that I still have on Facebook from previous
Yeah.
phases of my life that are like a little more, not a little, a lot more opposed to certain views that I hold
Yeah.
close now, and I see their stuff pushed at me much more than I see updates from family and stuff like that.
That's the thing.
It's a
I'm
weird
seeing the same thing.
algorithm.
Like I'm having weird articles from sites I've never heard of. Like this celebrity did this to this celebrity. Like why are you showing me this? I don't subscribe to this page, and I don't care what Robbie Downey Jr. did to Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't care.
That was a thing too, because like again, like out of necessity
Yeah.
for writing,
Mhm.
I had to like reactivate Twitter.
Yeah.
And like when you like, and I had like kind of like long deactivated it, so like
Right.
everything was like gone, right? Like
Right.
um when you like aren't following anything on Twitter, and you can
It's a
kind of see
cesspool.
like it's, oh my god, it's so bad. And again, like I was seeing stories people were saying about like how like Elon Musk was like pushing his own tweets onto people.
Oh yeah.
Luckily I muted him long ago, so like I wasn't seeing it. I was like really, I'm like, is this a thing, because I'm not getting anything from him. And I was like, oh, that's right, I, you know, I silenced him to the void.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
As
like
we
that's what I
all
mean. Like I would like the recommended like for you stories
So
were like
bad.
exactly the kind of stuff that's like designed to sort of like get you worked up into a frenzy.
Yeah. And I think that's Facebook too. And I think there's certain outlets that they promote that are just basically click farms of just
Mm-hmm.
random celebrity gossip or random outrage stuff, and very little real journalism is thrown, even though it's shared, is not shown to people on Facebook because it makes them leave the platform. So they'd rather
Yeah.
promote the
Well,
nonsense that makes people angry without even looking at it than the things that are real stories.
and
yeah.
but and you know what? It's sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like it seems like a lot of those sites that are foregoing integrity for content
Yeah.
are the same ones that are coasting off of having angry people in their comments overreacting to
Well,
things that are woke or whatever. Like there's just a lot
Yeah.
of
and
outrage farming.
that's exactly what I was just about to say. It's almost like to kind of to like echo what you were saying there. It's like they are kind of reaping what they've sowed at this
Yeah.
point, because like so much of, because it's not, obviously it's not just like, it's, you know, not just in our industry,
Right.
it really is like everywhere. it it's like the function of like journalism, the function of like news media
Yeah.
has kind of been diminished in such an extreme way that
Mhm.
like Chris said, like you have these, you know, people like on, you know, on YouTube, on TikTok,
Mhm.
on Facebook, wherever, whose sole job it is to be like reactionary.
Yeah.
Actually,
Mhm.
interestingly, Movie Bob just did a
Yeah.
pretty good video about like about the sort of the cycle of that reactionary like
Yeah.
the takes, right? Because, you know, people were all up in arms about the Mario movie when it seemed like Peach was way too woke and she's this feminist icon now, and that's not Peach, and they were all reacting to that. But then when the movie came out and the story became how like critics were slamming it because, you know, because it was a
It's
movie
not
that was
woken.
ostensibly made for children and it skewed to younger audiences. It didn't really
Everyone's
follow
upset. They just
the
yeah.
um you know, like the story then became, oh well woke Hollywood just didn't like it, and it's actually like it's anti woke, and you know it really is, it's a
Yeah.
family movie. So that's what I mean. So the reaction shifted, and Bob actually pointed out a really good point, was that like a movie like Cocaine Bear, which
Yeah.
kind of, you know, came out to like mostly decent reviews,
I mean,
actually
sure.
was kind of like an example of that, like of like what these guys should be mad about, because the story itself was about like a male bear who, you know, ate too much cocaine and died in the forest, and they made an extreme horror movie out of it, where they actually shifted it and kind of made it so that it's a female bear who does do the cocaine, but it's also like
They
she's
do the
protecting
cocaine.
her cubs, and like there's sort of a she do the cocaine, and like there's sort of a maternal angle to it, and even like the main like heroine of the movie is kind of like is a single mom who's trying to find her kid, and the villain of the movie is the late Ray Liotta, who's playing this like really toxic like masculine figure. And it's like so he was kind of saying like you can see how there was actually this really good point to be made about if their whole argument was the anti-woke thing, like that could have been there, but they didn't because nobody reacted to it and nobody was getting mad about it, so they had nothing to react to, right? But like to sort of bring it back to my point, like that's the whole name of the game now. It's pure reactionary. It's pure like what are people talking about? What are people sort of upset about? And what can we like make farm content out of just to like get people riled up? And you can see like there like there's one of the guys I work with now, like I was we were talking at lunch, and I saw that that Jerry Springer died, and his first response was, that's got to be fake. That's fake, right? Because like the function of media doesn't exist anymore, and everything has to be a hoax, and everything has to be like reacted to. And I literally said to him, like, I'm like, this is one of the first things I learned in school for journalism, like verify your sources, like check, like double check, like here, like I'm like CBC's reporting on it, like CTV, BBC, like everyone's reporting on it, so like it's true. But like the fact that his first reaction was just like, no, that's fake. Like
it's not even just like a journalism thing. It's like I learned that in media class in grade 11 in high school. Like it's just like consider where your information comes from. It doesn't have to be a journalistic thing. Like everyone that should be a basic function of society. And I think that we've failed in that regard because there seems to be no media literacy anymore. Like
but it's I like to say I to say that we've failed in that regard. Like I don't think it's like
as a race.
That, well, even collectively, like I don't think it's like the fault is on like this like society for not being more media literate and not being more aware of this stuff. It's that it's this calculated campaign of people delegitimizing the media, like delegitimizing journalism, just be like assholes like Trump basically being able to say, if I don't agree, if I don't like what you're saying about me, it's fake. Even if it's accurate, it's fake, and people can just throw that out now, right? Like, so anything that you don't agree with, regardless of its validity, is fake. So like,
it's bad to me, so it's fake.
Yeah, exactly, right? So like, if you don't agree, if it's a conservative talking point, then anything regardless of the facts you can lay out, like it's fake. If even and it's not just related to that too. Even like on the liberal side too, like when stuff happens, like people do get a little reactionary on that side too. Like it goes both ways. But like, granted, there is clearly one side that is actively dealing in falsehoods and one side that isn't, right? Like, but it's impossible to have these conversations.
Yeah, it's like the straw man fallacy is like the rule of the land now. It's just like, no, you're
absolutely, exactly, right?
Your point is dangerous to me, so I'm going to just abstractify it and make you look ridiculous and illegitimate, and people will believe it because I said it loudly enough.
Exactly, right? So it's like it's like across all these different sectors, you can kind of see like where the foundations of journalism are kind of breaking down. So it's like if you're talking about like like news, like world news, politics, whatever, it's like if you don't agree with it, it's fake, and we're not going to listen to it. I'm gonna get my news from the people that echo my bubble, like from TikTok, from Facebook, from wherever. And even in like video game journalism, like the kind of reporting that guys like Jason Schreier do, that takes like months of calling, like fact checking, getting sources to put out these big exposés about what's really going on in the industry. Those don't generate income like like the way you know, reporting on this or that trailer do, right? And it all just gets buried in the shuffle. So when stories about like the like what was going on at Ubisoft like gets buried under the next Assassin's Creed trailer, not because anyone's trying to be actively like bad journalists or not hold anyone to task, but it's just like that's the business.
That's the clicks, baby.
And eventually like like eventually it becomes unsustainable.
It's super frustrating nowadays when you see like, oh, game journalists are just out there to get clicks, and then the same person will turn around and say like and regurgitate something he heard from someone who is like that, who is legitimately trying to farm outrage or just farm a quick headline, get a bunch of clicks, get a bunch of clout, and the truth be damned, right? Like it's like, well, no, I mean, there's a difference. Like we don't influencers and creators and stuff like that doesn't have to be at odds with journalists. Like we, there should be more symbolism or some more synergy there. That seems like it's like, no, I side with this influencer and that journalist or that journalism or that outlet doesn't say what he says, so I'm just going
That
to disagree
definitely
with
something that
that.
happens.
It's like,
Well,
yeah, there's
well,
more backing to the journalism, right? Like, and people
yeah.
are forgetting that there's still a use for it and a verification for
You
it,
mean the free press has a value in today's world? Really?
right?
But it's not even just that too. It's like you can see even within like the culture of like the gamers, right? Because
Yeah.
like when uh when big things happen, like big you know scandals happen,
Hmm.
you know it's like you can report on it and do a good job as a journalist,
Right.
or or whatever, just talk about the games and get accused of like farming for clicks and not caring about the issues, whatever,
Hmm.
being hack journalists. But then it's like on the same on the other hand, if you talk about a game, or you're reviewing like a game and you bring up the things that happen and how it might have affected working conditions, how it might have affected the development of the game, or just like doing some degree of due diligence to hold
Yeah.
a company to task, despite the fact that you are like considering one of their products,
Yeah.
right? People will turn around and say, oh, it doesn't matter, don't talk about the controversy, just talk about the game, how does the game play, whatever. It's like, well, these two things have to coexist somehow.
It's like
But
it
so
But you
there's
plays
no
know,
like it was
winning.
made by overtime workers who were stressed out, not
I mean,
doing their best work.
even looking back at the Microsoft story we talked about earlier, there's a lot of tribalism going on with that, where people were just angry at governments for literally looking out for their best interests. They're like, "Oh, how
Yeah.
dare this government question this deal? Microsoft would only do good things for the gamer." I'm like, that's not how a country works. They don't just decide that that's how it works. So
It's like, yeah,
you
like
know,
Britain
they
doesn't care
have to.
about your prestige, rank, and COD. Like they don't give a
No.
shit about that.
So, but I saw a lot. Like, there's also a lot of like fan sites for Xbox, and they were talking about how uh, the UK betrayed gamers. I'm like, that's not true. Okay.
just like the so was it Sweden betrayed the gamers when they banned loot boxes
So I
from.
mean, like, there's a lot of that sort of thing. So we do need a free press to actually kind of point this stuff out. But like, hey, yeah, maybe you know that there's more to this story than whatever you've heard on from your favorite streamer or from Microsoft GameWire.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you
or
know,
there's more to it than your brand loyalty. Like
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I see this a lot with with JRPGs. Like
Yeah,
the Xbox gamers, like, well, why isn't this Final Fantasy game coming out on this, or why are we getting that RPG? And
yeah,
it's like, well, Microsoft has never had a good footing in Japan, never has, and it's gonna be an uphill battle before they ever can get a foothold.
yeah,
So instead of being mad at companies for not taking a huge wash on pumping a game onto a system where it's not going to sell,
yeah,
maybe shift your focus to being like, hey, why aren't you guys doing more to appeal to that market and get us these things? Like,
yeah,
it's just like, no, it's the shortest line to being mad at somebody. You're just looking
yeah.
for the easiest
Mhm.
way to yell.
And that's the thing. And I think um, I'm back to the original point. I'm really sad to see like some really fantastic journalists at Waypoint. Um, really sad to see them go. Like,
Yeah.
They did some really good work, and I'm hoping they all land on their feet because they did some amazing stuff. And I might not have read it daily, but I was a site I checked consistently. So.
Yeah. And it's just it's the long list too, because yeah, like it was like Destructoid not that long ago went down.
It's still there.
Didn't
No, they're up.
oh did they oh didn't they
They were
had to shutter some
sold.
studios,
They
wasn't it?
was so Destructoid was sold to Enthusiast, and then it sold to Gamers.
Right. I think I was thinking of Giant Bomb too. Giant Bomb had a bunch of layoffs.
Oh yeah, that was really strange because there's not that many people in Giant Bomb.
No. That's
There's
what
like
yeah, like
there's like 8. So like we fired a percentage of like I'm like, why? There's like 8 of you. Okay.
GameSpot too. Yeah, GameSpot had a bunch of
Games had
had
a
some
lot of firings. Yeah,
layoffs.
I saw that.
So that's yeah,
They're
these are
all
like
yeah,
these are the big names, right? Like
yeah.
I knew it was bad years and years and years ago when Game Trailers had to shut down, because Game Trailers was like my go-to website for game news for like
Yeah.
a
Who was
long time. Like pretty much all my teens was
that was
spent on
Defy
GameStop.
because Defy Media bought them and then didn't do anything with them and
Didn't
then
know what
just
to do with
shut
them,
them down.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you think back to like how much like came out of like GT,
Yeah.
like
Jeff Keighley.
Jeff Keighley, the AVGN started there pretty much. Ashley Burt and Anthony Birch were like kind of like became like names through them.
Yeah, it's crazy because that was the early gaming like landscape. I remember
Yeah.
looking at game trailers to look at the reviews. I'm like, I wish I could do reviews that looked that cool, and then they just went away, and
Yeah.
it's sad. I think this Easy Allies, which is the new like Patreon thing, is a lot of the original guys from game trailers went over there. So,
Hmm.
and they're chill
Yeah.
dudes. So
Yeah.
all power to them. And IGN is just a weird monolith now that just has such a massive reach. But I do think it has lost a lot of its personality in that process. Um,
Yeah,
it
definitely.
used to be you could read IGN and be like, I know who that writer is, I know what they're doing. Now it's a lot of they have that person. Cool. Okay, why not?
Yeah.
I think there's still some really good writers there, but it's become kind of homogenized because they really don't want to offend. That's why that joke of it's an IGN 7.
The IGN 7. I was just about to say that.
Because
IGN too
they-
much water.
because they don't ever want to offend anyone. So they always have to kind of sit in that kind of weird nothing gets below a 7 range.
Even
I
even
mean,
when even when their actual text says one thing and their score is
Yeah.
another, yeah.
Yeah.
And that probably just speaks again to the viability of their like business model as well. They
Yeah.
they know like what people look for and what people
Yeah.
don't, right? So like most people just want to go and look at the review score, like both the audience and even like companies alike who pay attention to these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like just want to see, the 7 go up on Metacritic and it's fine, and they're not actually going to read the body of review. They're just going to look at the number and go, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think then that's sad to see, but I think that is kind of much like we were talking about earlier, how a lot of games media is, where there's a lot of good stuff going on, but it's kind of obfuscated a lot. Like as you said,
Yeah.
the text of a review from IGN might paint a really complex picture of what the game is, but because of the way everything works there, it still get a 7. Doesn't matter what it is, it'll just sit there. It'll never get a 3. Like, this game's horrible, I hate it.
Yeah.
But a
So
7.
a game would have to like actively like not have an executable for that to get an IGN 3.
I mean, I've seen some 5s, but yeah, it is kind of because they are so beholden to the advertisers, and like Square Enix is not going to want its I'm using Square Enix as an example. That is not. I don't think they've done anything bad. Don't worry about it. But they don't want their massive ad campaign to be right next to a review that's trashing their game. So they have to be kind of play both sides.
And I used to hear that a lot too, even like recently, about how like a lot of these reviews or like game coverage is like paid for.
It's not.
And I've
No,
kind
no.
and I've had to explain many times. It's like it's not that it's that game companies are buying off journalists or buying off websites. It's that they are providing a lot of these websites with the function to pay their employees, and it's kind of like an unsaid thing where it's just like, hey, hope you guys like eating. Here's our ad for the the new Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Would be a shame if you guys didn't like it. Wink, wink.
Yeah, no, it's like when Forspoken came out, and I had the audacity to defend it and say it's actually a good game with some flaws. And someone's like, "How much is Square Enix paying you?"
Why would
no? They're
Well,
not
I mean,
paying
in their defense, you were defending Forspoken, so.
This not a
I'm
bad
kidding.
game.
I'm kidding. I'm
I still
kidding.
I still
I'm
do.
kidding.
But I do think it's not that they like companies hang it over your heads or anything. It's the fact that
Oh,
the accountants and the people that are dealing with the campaigns are putting pressure on one aspect or another. You saw this with like way back when Kane and Lynch back in the day with GameSpot.
hmm
And it wasn't necessarily like the company would be like, you have to fire this person. It's more just like, we might take our campaign away.
yeah,
And they're like,
and
well, we don't want that to happen.
they were plastering that site with Kane and Lynch ads at that time.
So, I mean, it is not as cut and dry as you might think.
No,
It's the fact that everything is so integrated that the people that deal with the payments and the ad sales have a lot to say about, hey, maybe you don't lean on them too hard this time, or maybe we don't run that story about Elon Musk. He just did an ad campaign. Not saying that happened. These are examples.
yeah, no. Well, and not even necessarily just on the sort of like business side of it too. Like
Yeah.
it even kind of like there is a little bit of like on the personal side to it as well, because I get emails all the time after reviews go up, and it's like from PR reps who are like I might have given a game like a low score, or
Yeah.
I might not have liked it, and and they're emailing me kind of just like, hey Jordan, like just want to know like if we can see your review, would love to share it with the dev team and everything. And I'm just like, oh my god, like how much it breaks my heart to tell you that like I didn't really like that game. Like,
And I mean,
I appreciate it, but
I've had some very weird emails from developers where basically we gave a game whatever score we gave it, and they'd be like, yeah, we're gonna have to shut down our studio now. I'm like, I feel my review
don't
didn't
put
do
this on
that.
me.
I feel that I might like the concept of going on. Like, they're like, you saw our game in a preview and you loved what we had doing. I'm like, yeah, I played 5 minutes, not 10 hours. So
the preview was not the final game.
yeah.
But
And I've had that a few times where developers reach out and be like, we're really upset by this, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? Also,
yeah,
if your game is beholden on one site giving it above a 7, that's a problem.
Yeah.
but that's kind of that's what I mean. Like it's like there is there's a professional and a personal angle to it, right? It's not always so cut and dry, and it's like nobody's ever like out. I mean, I guess except for those examples, nobody's ever really saying like, hey, like you guys aren't going to be able to eat if you don't give this game a good review. But it's like shit like that where it's just like, you didn't like our game, so now we're gonna have to close down the studio. It's like, okay, so what? I guess next time I'll give a game that I hate a 9 because you guys might have to shut down because you made a subpar video game. Like, don't put that shit on me.
I think also a lot of it is like companies are holding, like they make their employees bonuses and stuff like that based on Metacritic reviews. And that's not a reviewer's fault that a company's like, you get a bonus and the game gets above an 8. That's not really fair to anyone.
Is that still happening? Because like I know the big
depends on companies, but it does happen.
Yeah, because I know the big profile one was Fallout New Vegas, and that was just shitty altogether because they gave those guys like 9 months to work on that game.
No, there was a lot of that happens. I think it's like certain companies are very much like you get percentage of bonus based on the score, and that's not really fair because one critic could hate a game for whatever reason. It just might not have clicked with him well or whatever, and now an entire development team is getting less money. That's dumb.
Yeah.
It also puts way too much weight on a journalist to we shouldn't need to be deciding, oh, if I give this bad score, someone in Texas is just not eating tonight. So
Yeah. Like,
that seems like a bad thing to do.
Yeah, don't make me responsible for that. That's yeah.
Like,
I'm trying to feed my family.
yeah. So I feel that game companies have publishers and developers have put a lot of pressure on game journalists, but also made it so they really don't want game journalists to really report on much beyond a certain amount because
mhm.
they don't want us to look at, a scandal at a studio. They want us to look at how that new trailer looks really cool.
That's pretty
And
much it. And
yeah,
I was like I was saying before, like it's like this the way that like that a lot of these big game companies have
mhm,
kind of sort of twisted the medium. It's
yeah,
it really has become. It's like by through no fault of anyone like really wanting to do bad journalism. It's just that it's like these are the things we have to do now. We have to
yeah.
jump through these hoops if we want to be sustainable as a business.
And like even with the like blacklisting does exist in the industry. If you
Oh
report
yeah.
on certain things, you might get like, oh, they just don't have enough codes this time around for your next review. That stuff happens. It doesn't happen as much as the amount that YouTube makes it seem like it happens. It doesn't happen that much.
yeah,
Like YouTube makes it seem like this company's going to hold all these codes. Like no, sometimes
No.
games just aren't ready for journalists. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
yeah.
Or
There's a lot
they
of
wanted
technicalities with it.
or they want to see it played in a controlled environment, so they don't want it released early. There's a lot of reasons companies do what they do. It isn't always that it's some shady cabal of these 5 journalists get it because they are going to like beholden. They've went to weird sex orgies. Not at all.
No.
As
It's
everything is decided.
yeah. It really is. Sometimes they have like companies are like, okay, we know these outlets here are safe. They get a code. These outlets
Yeah.
here, we'll make them get a code, but we don't want them like before the Medicaid score comes out. We don't want them to uh, have a chance to like tear it down, so they get a code. Second, like, movie studios do the same thing. If they
Yeah,
know a
we
movie is not going to do well, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to stream it after it releases. If you want to see it after, fine."
yeah. You
But like,
definitely see it on both sides too,
yeah,
right? Like because there are there are the examples of people who like spoke out enough about like shady businesses that
yeah,
they just stopped getting emails, stopped getting
uh,
review codes from PR
like
people. But at
James
the
Stephen
same
Sterling has
time,
had that happen a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. But at the same time too, like through our own experience, right?
Yeah.
Like I think we can say confidently, like Nintendo, does really want to control the environment
Oh yeah, 100%.
with
Like,
how they get codes. Like so
Just
and
look
sometimes
even
at the
like
Tears of the Kingdom previews this week. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like a lot of and I don't know if it's exclusively with Pokemon Company because you could just see from our own coverage of it like those like reviews are hard to get out, and it wasn't just us either. It was everybody like that
yeah.
weren't getting review codes till like the day of, if not like before, a week before release, just because they
Yeah.
really didn't want that game getting like out. And you see it with a lot of Nintendo stuff.
which is
I
really
mean,
ironic
yeah,
considering that with like the last few Pokemon releases, they've been really tight with like the media saying like you don't get
Hmm.
your codes until this time. But by the time we get them, they've already been sold accidentally
yeah,
somewhere in some small European country
Yeah.
or something like that and leaked online. So it's
yeah.
like you're kind of being selective with us, but you're not controlling the retail channels, which is the real
And you
problem.
can't. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the answer is I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how. Like every medium has that. It very
Yeah.
much is. If you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours type thing. And no matter what you do, you can't get around that. You can't be like, we're not going to we're going to be completely adversarial to a company. Is that we're not going to. There's no back and forth dialogue, and they just will freeze you out. But you also don't want to be so close that you're going to their bat mitzvahs because maybe you're going to be a little biased. I don't know
Yeah.
why I chose bat mitzvah there. It was the first thing that popped in my head. But like,
it's it really does come down to it's like to a certain degree it's like you know this is the game
yeah,
and we just have to play it now, and it's like we don't like most I think most journalism websites, like most journalistic websites, don't have the kind of power to set the terms of how the
Yep.
game is played. So it's like either, you like James Stephanie Sterling, like you get, a certain audience, you get a certain
Yeah.
and probably a certain degree of luck,
Yeah.
to get like Patreon funded and do your own thing and be
Yep.
be a solo outlet. But like, an outlet like us or Polygon or whomever, like they can't really go the self-funded, well, they can't really go that route. Like they
Yep.
need to rely on advertisers. They need to rely on
Yep.
on game companies to provide codes to a certain degree. Like, just because they, if they really wanted to go that route, and they were reviewing games like that they purchased themselves after they come out,
Yep.
it's like, then you're always going to be behind the curve.
And that's the thing, and that's the meat of the potatoes of the thing. Waypoint didn't do it like they didn't follow the churn. They
No.
did things like, oh, they reviewed it on a game, like they replayed a game they did from like the childhood, or they
Mhm.
went into deep about how like the modern trend towards curved monitors is like just random things they thought that day, cool stories, cool good ideas, but they definitely are not following that churn. And Vice can be hit or miss what it does, but it does try to follow trends.
Yeah.
And that section of Vice did not follow trends. I liked them for it, but I can see why the people that are kind of making the overall decision said, so we want a site that basically just covers the weird stuff around gaming and the latest thing that happened with Pokemon that's weird. So do that. And they aren't doing that.
Yeah, and then they had to eat it.
I do hope everyone there lands on their feet. I think a lot of great journalists were at Waypoint, and it was such a small team, another small team. So I just want to see them all kind of land on their feet and do good things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just like one kind of final
Agreed.
bow on that too is that it's sad to see because it reminds me of the general state of print media as well.
Yeah.
Like it's sad that there's no real game publications out there anymore except for like a few niche ones like Retro Gamer and Edge and us when we're on newsstands. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like that used to be such a staple of the industry. That's how news was delivered, and it was like we talked about it several times in the show. Like it used to be like a ritual. I used to go to the newsstand every month
Yeah.
and get my PlayStation magazine, my EGMs and stuff like that, and even
Yeah.
been looking back at some old issues recently for research and stuff like that. And it's a lost art. And
It really, it 100% is, and that's. I hope that things change and the industry kind of does find its footing. That isn't just churn. And I know sites like outlets like the Velnet stuff or the gamer stuff, they really do play to the lowest common. I mean, I'm not going to say they all do. There's some good reporting in that as well. But the way those structures done is top lists. Did you see that one weird thing? It's going to be a mystery. Let's delve into this random thing that's not a thing, but we'll make 5 stories about this one nonsense. And I think I don't think that's the industry. I don't think that's where we should be, and I think it could be so much more.
that craft is definitely like the top, right? That makes the money, but then you
Yeah.
have to that supports them to do those actual good
Exactly.
reporting stories.
Exactly.
And again, not to like glorify print media too much, because there used to be a fair share of lowest common denominator stuff
Yeah.
in there, like the E3 stuff. Check out the booth babes we saw, as well as the game
Oh,
coverage.
100% that happened.
And all that skeevy stuff that got between the pages there, like pays the bills.
Oh yeah, those
Wasn't perfect
like,
either,
Yep.
but
Edge
yeah, no,
magazine did some weird stuff.
it's just sad to see that it just reminds me of the downfall of that
Yep,
niche
I
of
agree with
that
that.
quarter of the industry. And
I 100% agree with you.
but yeah, thoughts with people at Waypoint and Vice, and yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us for tonight, though.
Pretty solid set of stuff right there. I liked it.
Yeah. If you'd like to read more on these topics and more, you can find full coverage at cgmagonline.com. Be sure to follow CG Magazine on all the socials. Just search for CG Mag,
socials.
you'll find us. What?
I was just saying the socials.
Oh, the socials.
Just echoing.
I was just being your hype man. I want to be a hype man today.
And if you have any questions or comments, you can send them to podcast at cgmagonline.com. Jordan, where can people find you?
You can find me sometimes on TikTok, sometimes on Instagram at Ninja X Jordan, and you can find me on YouTube at Ninja Jordan Reviews.
You can find me at BFry26 on everything.
And you can find me on the things at Hugathy. And yes, Brenda, or yes, Dana, he did just hype me and with a sunburn.
Who is a
Sure.
sunburn?
You know better. Oh, Jordan does, I think, maybe. Looking at the
Do I have a sunburn? I have
You
been
look-
outside
You look like you have a
this
sunburn.
past week.
very red
Probably.
nose.
I have been
So
working
on behalf
outside.
of all of us and Rudolph here, thanks for joining in, and we'll catch you next week.
Have a good one, everyone.